No small receiver, no tiny defensive end. Go get size. And Bryce Young's coming out. He's refined and clever. He's tiny. He's barely 6 feet tall, and he's a $190. I mean, he looks small as a college guy. Will Levis at Kentucky isn't as refined. Big, strong, thick. And it's funny, the Tua situation, people like him more than I do, but Drew, I'm tall. You're much taller than me, 6'5.5". There were advantages to your size, right? I mean, you knew that very early, right? You probably had a backup that were smaller at some point. Did you always feel your size and your arm strength and your strength was a huge advantage?
Oh, it is. And, the funny Bryce Young story, I went to this quarterback club Hall of Fame deal a number of years ago, and he was the high school recipient that year. And so we met him, and we're like, man, this guy can't go play in the SEC. He's going to die, right? I mean, but he's gone on to be an amazing player. And I think, when I came into the league, you had to be big and durable because that's back when they could actually really hit us, right?
Right.
I do think it has changed some now with the rules and the way that they take care of quarterbacks, and that's why I think more of these some mobile quarterbacks are having more success because they don't get hit as much or as hard as we did back then. So I think with his elusiveness and his pocket presence, I think that he can be one of those those high picks, and I think he can be very successful. But they are going to have to take care of him.
Yeah.
Because shoot, man. I mean, Joe Montana was a little guy, but Joe was 6'2", 6'3", and a couple 100 pounds. Bryce is a little dude, but man, I've been really impressed watching him play though. And he seems like he's got all of the stuff, so I wouldn't shy away if I was making that pick just because of his size.
All things considered, Garoppolo, Tannehill, Derek Carr, is there one that you watch, all things considered, size, injury history, big game experience? Let's take Brady out of the equation. The other guys, the Tannehill could be available. Maybe Kirk Cousins if somebody makes a call. Derek Carr will be. Garoppolo. One of those guys you would lean to first. I mean, we got Washington could need a quarterback. Houston, Indy. There's a lot of suitors out here, Drew.
Yeah, I've always really liked Derek Carr's game. It's sort of been surprising to me that the success hasn't matched up with what I think I'm seeing in terms of his ability and arm strength and accuracy and so on. So I don't know why that hasn't been more successful, but I've always really liked his game a lot. So if I was going to, just based on, sort of being the fan perspective, not necessarily the film study perspective, I might lean toward Derek of those three. I just really feel like there's incredible upside still, even though he's been around for a while, he's been productive and so on. I really feel like that he's got the potential to be, a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl for you.
You were knocked out of a football game, and again, you probably played at 225. You were 6'5". The Damar Hamlin hit it's something you see 15 times in a game. I mean, I saw another piece of it last night, and I'm like, that's just such a random play. You, by the way, Drew, you had a moment that it was pretty frightening for you. Did you, when you watched that moment, was it nerve-wracking for you to watch it?
There are a couple of things that jump out in that situation. Number one is I think that for casual fans, and you're seeing some of the pictures here now, I think people tend to lose perspective sometimes that, football players and athletes, we're real people and we care deeply about each other. And that's our opponents as well. There's a kinship and so, you really get to see that these are real human beings that have real connections and families and so on. But the other piece, and this was true in my instance, the staff that we have and the medical staff and the immediate attention that Damar got on the field, cardiac arrest, if you're not in a hospital or in some place where you can get immediate attention, if you're walking down the street and experience cardiac arrest, you're not going to make it. And so it's a real credit to the training staff, the medical staff, and all of the people that responded to him immediately, kept him alive. And now it looks, based on just kind of what I'm hearing and reading, that like he's he's showing some really positive signs. And I know that was the case for me. I come off the field at the end of the game, and our staff grabbed me, and I wanted to go in for team prayer and go home and sleep it off. And had I done that, I would have bled out internally, and I wouldn't be here. So it's a real credit to that training staff and that medical staff for their immediate attention to what was going on, and saved his life. And it looks like hopefully now whether he comes back and plays again is completely beside the point. The fact that he's still alive is a real credit to their staff.
Yeah, Drew Bledsoe, doubleback.com, great wine maker in Walla Walla, Washington. That's the real name of the town. It's a great winery, and the wine is fantastic. One of my, I think it's my favorite cab. Any wine news here, by the way? Anything new?
Yeah, man, we're about to release the 2020 vintage of Doubleback here in the next couple of weeks. Fantastic vintage. 2020, across the entire West, the huge forest fires and a lot of damage to a lot of wines in California and parts of Oregon, but we made it through, and the 2020 vintage for us is just spectacular. So we'll be fired up to get that out to the public here in the next couple of weeks.
Doubleback wine, doubleback.com. Good seeing you, Drew.
Always good to catch up, Colin. Best to you and your fam.
All right. Really good guy. Yeah, Drew Bledsoe was basically knocked out of the game. It started Brady's career. It was much more serious than Drew knew at the time. And as he said, he wanted to go for team prayer, and the doctor are behind you. I get crap for that, but I say it's like the grown-up among kids. And Mac Jones has some dubious body language. Are we overreacting? What do you make of it?
It's interesting, Colin. I think we've talked about this a little bit. Being a quarterback and now owning and running a business, at a high level, they're kind of the same thing, right? At a high level, and you're guiding a team, and they're watching you all the time. And, whatever you've got going on personally, whatever is happening, outside of the office, that stuff has to stay there. And regardless of how you're feeling, you've got to represent confidence, positivity, and, optimism and all of those things, to the people that are watching you all the time. So it does matter. There's no question it does matter. And as a quarterback, you always have to be aware that it's not just you. You've got an entire team that's looking at you and expecting you to, project confidence and positivity.
So when you look, Garoppolo's going to have some movement, and he's going to have a say. Derek Carr's got a no-trade clause. Your friend Tommy's going to have options. I tend to think, it's funny. What I thought 5 years ago is not what I think now. I look at the NFL now, and I'm like, I'm not going to go any place with a crazy owner. He'll screw up everything. And there's a few of those. So let's get past that. We know none of these guys want to go to a crazy owner. Is there something else that you, Drew, would look at in your box and say, okay, this is really important that maybe I wouldn't notice?
Well, I mean, it's the obvious things. And, when Tom left New England and decided to go to Tampa, obviously very smart. And he looked at all the pieces in place there, offensive line, receivers, great, very quarterback friendly head coach at the time. So you take all of those things into effect. And as Tom's looking to move, I mean, I don't know, he may play till he's 60 at this point. I don't know. But you have to kind of look at it like, okay, who's ready to win right now? He's certainly not going to a place, where it's a 3-year or 5-year plan. He's going someplace where if he leaves Tampa, he's going someplace where he thinks that they're just a quarterback away from being a champion. And you look at the two places you mentioned. You look at the Raiders. There are a lot of pieces in place there. There's a great running back, and they seem like they're close. And obviously, he knows Josh McDaniels very well. The other Josh McDaniels, by the way, the real Josh McDaniels is my winemaker, Josh McDaniels. And then you look at San Fran, and boy, it looks like they're set up to make a real run, with, Mr. Irrelevant playing quarterback.
Right.
By the way, he's playing really good football. I think those two places would be landing spots, if Tom decides to make a move.
So Sean Payton said on our show earlier this week, he said, when you top 15 pick, and you were a number 1 pick. Top 15 pick, you have to